The hallways of the Galactic Federation Academy sparkled like polished diamonds. The walls changed colors slowly, shifting from soft blue to gentle purple, helping students from different planets feel at home. Hejun walked through these halls, his footsteps echoing against the crystal floor. He held his digital tablet close to his chest, trying to look confident even though his heart was beating fast. He was the first human to ever study at the academy. No pressure, right? The registration office had given him simple directions. Third floor, room 314, Professor Do Young's xenobiology class. Hejun had practiced saying the professor's name carefully, not wanting to make mistakes on his first day. He knew that humans weren't very popular in the galaxy yet. Earth had only joined the Galactic Federation 2 years ago, and many alien species still thought of humans as primitive creatures who had gotten lucky with their technology. The elevator hummed softly as it carried him to the third floor. When the doors opened, Hejun almost bumped into a tall, tree-like being whose branches were covered in small, glowing fruits. The being moved aside politely, its leaves rustling in what Hejun hoped was a friendly way. "Sorry," Hejun said quickly, bowing slightly out of habit. The tree being's fruits changed color from blue to pink, which Hejun decided to take as a good sign. Room 314 wasn't hard to find. The numbers floated in the air next to each door, glowing softly. Hejun checked the time on his tablet. He was 10 minutes early, just as he had planned. Taking a deep breath, he pressed his hand against the door's sensor panel. The door slid open with a gentle whoosh, revealing a large classroom unlike anything Hejun had seen on Earth. The seats were arranged in a semicircle, each one able to adjust its shape for different types of bodies. Some looked like regular chairs, others like pools of liquid, and a few were actually floating platforms. At the front of the room stood Professor Du Young. She was a celestial, one of the oldest species in the Federation. Her skin had a slight silver shine to it, and her hair looked like it was made of starlight. She was writing something in the air with her finger, leaving glowing letters that hung there like tiny stars. "Ah, you must be our new student," Professor Du Young said, turning to face Hejun. Her voice was calm and clear, like water running over smooth stones. "The human representative." "Yes, Professor, I'm Hejun," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Thank you for accepting me into your class." Professor Du Young smiled, though Hejun noticed she seemed a bit uncertain about how to react to his presence. "Please, take any seat you find comfortable. The chairs will adjust to your body type automatically." Hejun chose a seat in the middle row, not wanting to appear too eager by sitting in front, but also not wanting to hide in the back. As he sat down, the chair shifted slightly, molding itself to support his back perfectly. Other students began arriving. Each new arrival made Hejun more aware of how different he looked. There was a group of Luminians, their skin glowing with soft light in different colors. A pair of gravitons floated in, their crystal-like bodies catching and reflecting light in beautiful patterns. 3 Aquarians moved like flowing water, their transparent bodies showing the complex networks of organs inside them. Most of them tried not to stare at Hejun, but he could feel their curiosity. Humans were still new to the galactic community, and many species were unsure what to make of them. A Luminian student sat down next to Hejun. Her skin gave off a gentle blue glow, and her hair looked like strands of moonlight. "Hello," she said, her voice musical. "I'm Hejun. You're the first human I've met in person." "Nice to meet you," Hejun replied, grateful for the friendly approach. "I'm Hejun." "I know," Hejun said, her glow brightening slightly. "Everyone knows. You're the first human to attend the academy. That's pretty brave." Before Hejun could respond, Professor Do Young called the class to attention. The floating letters in front of her had formed into a complete sentence. "Welcome to Advanced Xenobiology, Predatory Species Across the Galaxy." "Today," Professor Do Young began, "we start our new semester with a very special addition to our class. As you've likely noticed, we have our first human student joining us. This presents a unique opportunity to learn about Earth's biological diversity. Hejun felt every eye, and several other types of sensory organs, turned toward him. He sat up straighter, trying to look worthy of representing his entire species. Now Professor Do-young continued, waving her hand to bring up a holographic display. Let's begin with an overview of the most efficient predatory species we've documented in the Federation. The hologram showed various creatures from different planets. Hejun watched with fascination as images of predators from across the galaxy floated in the air. There were crystalline beings that absorbed energy directly from stars, gas-based creatures that could compress themselves to capture prey, and liquid organisms that could split into multiple hunters. But as the presentation continued, Hejun noticed something strange. There weren't any Earth creatures in the display. Not even the ones he knew would be impressive to other species. He raised his hand, waiting until Professor Do-young acknowledged him with a nod. "Professor," Hejun said, trying to keep his voice steady, "I noticed that Earth's predatory species aren't included in the overview. Some of them might be interesting to study, especially the deep-sea creatures." Professor Do-young's expression shifted slightly, showing what might have been surprise or skepticism. "Ah, yes. Well, Hejun, we generally focus on species that have developed significant evolutionary advantages. Earth's relatively young biosphere means that most of its predators are, shall we say, still developing." Hejun felt his face grow warm. Next to him, Yi-jin's glow dimmed slightly, perhaps sensing his discomfort. "With all due respect, Professor," Hejun said, his heart pounding but his voice firm, "Earth's oceans have produced some remarkable predators. For example, the Gulper eel has some unique adaptations that might surprise you." A few students made sounds that might have been laughs. Professor Do-young's smile became slightly patronizing. "The curriculum focuses on advanced evolutionary developments, Hejun. While I'm sure Earth's creatures are interesting, we need to maintain certain standards." Hejun felt something spark inside him, a mixture of pride and determination. He opened his tablet and quickly found a video he had downloaded before leaving Earth, just in case he needed to explain things about his home planet. "Professor, would you mind if I showed the class a quick video? It's only 30 seconds long." Professor Do-young hesitated, then nodded. "Very well. Please connect your device to the classroom display." Hejun tapped his tablet, and the holographic display shifted to show the deep, dark waters of Earth's oceans. For a moment, there was nothing but blackness. Then suddenly, a massive jaw appeared, unfolding like a nightmare, growing to a size that seemed impossible for the eel's body. The Gulper eel's mouth expanded to swallow prey several times larger than itself, its tiny eyes glowing in the darkness, its bioluminescent tail tip flickering like a deadly lure. The classroom went completely silent. Even Professor Do-young stared at the display with wide eyes. That's a natural Earth species, not genetically engineered." "Yes, Professor," Hejun said, feeling more confident now. "The Gulper eel, also known as Eurypharynx pelicanoids, evolved naturally in Earth's deep oceans. And it's not even one of our more unusual species." The silence in the room broke as students began whispering to each other. Hejun could see their expressions of shock, fascination, and in some cases, what looked like fear. "That's quite remarkable," Professor Do-young said slowly. She waved her hand, and the classroom display returned to her original presentation. "Thank you for sharing that, Hejun. Perhaps we should consider adding some Earth species to our curriculum." For the rest of the class, Hejun noticed that several students kept glancing at him with new interest. Even Professor Do-young's attitude had shifted slightly. She now looked at him with curiosity rather than polite dismissal. As the class ended and students began to leave, Yi-jin turned to Hejun, her glow pulsing with excitement. "That was amazing. I had no idea Earth had creatures like that. How do they survive? What do they eat? How deep in the ocean do they live?" Hejun couldn't help but smile at her enthusiasm. "Well, if you're interested, There's a lot more to learn about Earth's deep-sea creatures. The Gulper Eel is just the beginning. Would you tell me more? Yi-Jin asked, her glow brightening. Maybe we could study together sometimes. I'd like that, He-Jun said, feeling for the first time since arriving that he might actually belong at the academy. As they walked out of the classroom together, He-Jun glanced back at Professor Du-Young, who was still staring thoughtfully at her display. He had a feeling this semester was going to be very interesting. In the hallway, other students nodded to him as they passed, some even waving or making their species equivalent of a friendly gesture. The tree being from earlier was there too, its fruits now a deep purple color that somehow seemed respectful. He-Jun smiled to himself. Maybe being the first human at the academy wouldn't be so bad after all. After all, he had a whole planet's worth of amazing creatures to share with his new classmates. And if they were this impressed by a Gulper Eel, wait until they learned about the anglerfish, the giant squid, or the frilled shark. As he walked with Yi-Jin toward their next class, He-Jun felt a new sense of purpose. He wasn't just here to learn about alien life. He was here to show the galaxy that Earth's life was just as fascinating, just as worthy of study and respect, and he was going to enjoy every minute of it. The walls of the academy continued their slow color changes, but now they seemed less intimidating and more welcoming. He-Jun had taken his first step toward changing the galaxy's view of Earth, one deep-sea creature at a time. A week had passed since He-Jun's first day at the Galactic Federation Academy. He sat in the Academy's vast library, surrounded by floating screens showing videos of Gulper Eels. The library was quiet except for the soft hum of holographic displays and the occasional whisper of passing students. I still can't believe these creatures are real, Yi-Jin said, her blue glow reflecting off the screens. She had been helping He-Jun prepare for his presentation on Earth's deep-sea predators. And you say there are even stranger things in your oceans. He-Jun nodded, moving one video closer. Much stranger. The Gulper Eel is actually pretty normal compared to some others. But Professor Du-Young said we should focus on one species for the presentation. The assignment was simple. Each student had to present the most fascinating predator from their home world. Most students were choosing well-known creatures that had been studied for centuries. But He-Jun wanted to show something new, something that would change how his classmates saw Earth. Watch this part, He-Jun said, pointing to a screen where a Gulper Eel was hunting. Its tiny body suddenly transformed as its jaw unhinged, becoming almost all mouth. The creature swallowed a fish 3 times its size in one gulp. Yi-Jin's glow flickered with surprise. How does it even move with such a big mouth? The energy required to open that wide should tear its muscles apart. That's the clever part, He-Jun explained, pulling up a diagram on another screen. The jaw isn't heavy at all. It's made of very light bones and special muscles that can stretch incredibly far. The whole thing folds up when it's not being used. As they worked, other students would sometimes stop to watch the videos. Most tried to pretend they weren't interested, but He-Jun noticed how they lingered, their eyes, or other sensing organs, fixed on the screens. We should add this section about their bioluminescence, Yi-Jin suggested, her own light dimming slightly to match the darkness of the deep-sea footage. It's different from how my species produces light. We generate it through our whole body, but the Gulper Eel only has it at the tip of its tail. He-Jun smiled. Yi-Jin had become more than just a study partner. She was now a friend who genuinely wanted to learn about Earth's creatures. Her questions helped him see familiar animals in new ways. The tail light is like a fishing lure, he explained. Small fish think it's food and swim closer. Then, he made a chomping motion with his hands, and Yi-Jin's glow rippled with what might have been laughter. Your oceans must be terrifying places, she said, but her voice was full of fascination rather than fear. They can be, He-Jun admitted, but they're also beautiful. We've only explored about 20% of Earth's oceans. There could be thousands of species we haven't discovered yet. A new voice joined their conversation. "Excuse me, but did you say 20%? They turned to see Professor Du Young standing nearby, her starlight hair shimmering with interest. She had been different since Hejun's first day, more curious about Earth life. "Yes, Professor," Hejun said. "Our oceans are very deep and hard to explore. The Gulper eel lives so deep that the pressure would crush most submarines." Professor Du Young moved closer to examine the displays. "Fascinating. And these creatures evolved naturally. No genetic engineering at all." "None," Hejun confirmed. "Just millions of years of evolution in one of the most extreme environments on Earth." The professor nodded slowly. "I look forward to your presentation, Hejun. Perhaps we've been too quick to dismiss Earth's evolutionary achievements." After she left, Hejun and Yijin returned to their work with renewed energy. They spent hours organizing the presentation, making sure every detail was perfect. Yijin helped create beautiful holographic models that would show the Gulper eel's hunting techniques in 3 dimensions. "We should show how it moves through the water," Yijin suggested, her fingers dancing through the air as she adjusted the hologram. "See how its body ripples. It's almost like dancing." Hejun watched as she modified the display, making the holographic eel swim through the library air. "That's amazing, Yijin. How did you learn to control holograms so well?" Her glow brightened slightly. Hejun had learned this meant she was pleased. "Luminians are naturally good with light and energy. We can feel how it moves and shape it. But this creature, it's teaching me new ways to think about light. I never imagined using it as a trap." As evening approached, they had created something special. Their presentation would take the class on a journey to Earth's deep oceans, showing them a world as alien as any planet in the galaxy. "Do you think they'll understand?" Hejun asked as they packed up their work. "How important these creatures are." Yijin's glow pulsed gently. "They'll have to. This isn't just about one strange fish, Hejun. It's about showing everyone that Earth isn't some primitive backwater. Your planet has wonders that can compete with anything in the galaxy." Hejun nodded, feeling more confident. Tomorrow, he would show his classmates something they had never seen before. He would make them understand that Earth's oceans held mysteries as deep and fascinating as the depths of space. As they left the library, the Academy's walls had shifted to evening colors, deep purples and soft oranges that reminded Hejun of Earth's sunsets. Other students were heading to their dormitories, some floating, others walking, all part of the incredible diversity of life in the galaxy. "Yijin," Hejun said as they reached the point where their paths split, "thank you for helping me. Not just with the presentation, but with everything." Her glow formed patterns that Hejun had learned meant happiness. "That's what friends do," she said simply. "Besides, I can't wait to see everyone's faces tomorrow when they see a Gulper eel in full hunting mode." That night, in his room, Hejun reviewed the presentation one last time. The holographic eel swam through his room, its mouth opening wide, its tail light glowing in the darkness. Tomorrow would be important, not just for him, but for how the galaxy saw Earth. He thought about the deep oceans of his home planet, about all the strange and wonderful creatures that lived there. The Gulper eel was just the beginning. Soon, the galaxy would learn that Earth's oceans held wonders that could match anything in the cosmos. As he prepared for bed, Hejun smiled at the thought of tomorrow's presentation. The Academy was about to learn that sometimes the most amazing things in the galaxy could be found in the most unexpected places, like the dark depths of a primitive planet's oceans. The next morning would bring challenges, but Hejun was ready. With Yijin's help, he had created something special. Now it was time to show the galaxy that Earth's creatures deserved their respect and wonder. The Gulper eel was about to make quite a splash in the Galactic Federation Academy. The morning of the presentation arrived with the Academy's walls glowing a soft morning gold. Hejun stood outside the classroom, checking his data tablet one last time. His heart was beating fast, but he felt ready. Next to him, Yi Jin's blue glow pulsed with encouraging patterns. "Remember," she said softly, "just tell them the truth about your world. The Gulper Eel will do the rest." The classroom was already full when they entered. Professor Do Young stood at her usual place, her starlight hair shimmering as she checked the day's schedule. The other students sat in their various spots, some floating, some sitting, some swimming in liquid pods. All of them were there to present their homeworld's most fascinating predators. "We'll begin with Hejun's presentation," Professor Do Young announced. "As Earth is new to our community, I think we're all curious to learn more about its wildlife." Hejun walked to the front of the room, connecting his tablet to the classroom's holographic system. The lights dimmed automatically, and the walls changed to a deep blue color, perfect for what he was about to show. "Thank you, Professor," Hejun said, his voice steadied despite his nerves. "Today, I want to take you to a place that's as alien as any world in our galaxy, Earth's deep oceans." The holographic display came to life, filling the room with the darkness of the deep sea. Tiny particles floated in the water, caught in the beam of what looked like a submarine's light. The students watched silently, some leaning forward in their seats. 4 kilometers below Earth's surface, Hejun continued, there is no sunlight. The pressure is strong enough to crush most spacecraft. And in this darkness lives one of Earth's most remarkable predators, the Gulper Eel. The hologram shifted, showing the creature swimming through the water. Its normal form looked almost disappointing, a small black eel with tiny eyes and a strange tail. Some students made sounds that might have been laughs. "I know it doesn't look impressive," Hejun said with a small smile. "But watch what happens when it hunts." The hologram zoomed in. The eel's tail began to glow with a soft blue light, wiggling like a worm. A small fish approached, curious about the light. Then, in an instant, everything changed. The eel's jaw unhinged, its mouth expanding to many times its normal size. The small, unimpressive creature transformed into a living net, its massive mouth big enough to swallow creatures larger than itself. The fish disappeared in one gulp, and the eel's body stretched to contain its meal. The classroom erupted in gasps and exclamations. A gravitum student actually floated higher in shock. Professor Do Young's eyes were wide, her professional calm briefly forgotten. "This is not a trick," Hejun said quickly. "The Gulper Eel evolved naturally in Earth's oceans. Its jaw can unhinge completely, and its stomach can stretch to hold large prey. The glowing tail tip acts as a lure, attracting curious fish close enough to be caught." He moved through more footage, showing different Gulper eels hunting, swimming, and living in the darkness. Each new clip seemed to amaze the class more. Even the students who had laughed earlier were now watching with complete attention. "But how?" one student asked, their crystal body sparkling with excitement. "How can it move with such a large mouth?" Hejun nodded to Yi Jin, who activated the next part of their presentation. A detailed hologram of the eel's skeleton appeared, floating in the center of the room. "The jaw bones are very light," Hejun explained, pointing to different parts of the skeleton. "They're connected by special muscles that can stretch incredibly far without breaking. When the eel isn't hunting, everything folds up neatly, letting it swim normally." Professor Do Young stepped forward, examining the skeleton closely. "This is remarkable engineering. I mean, evolution," she corrected herself. "And you say this happened naturally?" "Yes, Professor," Hejun replied. "Over millions of years, the deep ocean shaped these creatures. The darkness, the pressure, the need to find food. All of these things helped create the Gulper Eel we see today." He moved to the next part of the presentation, showing how the eel's bioluminescence worked. Yi Jin had helped make this section especially detailed, using her own understanding of biological light to explain how the eel's tail lamp functioned. "The light is created by special cells in the tail," Hejun explained. "It's similar to how some other deep-sea creatures make light, but the Gulper Eel uses it as a trap. The gentle glow and movement tricks smaller fish into thinking it's something they can eat. A Luminian student raised their hand. But that's so clever, they said, their own glow flickering with interest. To use light as a weapon instead of just for communication like we do. Nature finds many ways to solve problems, Hojun said. Earth's deep oceans are full of creatures that use light in different ways. Some use it to hunt, others to hide, and some even use it to find mates. He showed more videos, each one drawing more amazed reactions from the class. The Gulper eel hunting in groups, the way they could swim in any direction, how they could survive the crushing pressure of the deep ocean. Everything seemed to fascinate his classmates. And here's something else interesting, Hojun said, bringing up a new image. We've only explored about 20% of Earth's oceans. There could be many more creatures like the Gulper eel that we haven't discovered yet. This statement caused another stir in the classroom. The idea that a primitive planet could still hold so many undiscovered species seemed to shock everyone. You mean, Professor Du Young said slowly, there could be even more remarkable creatures in Earth's oceans that we don't know about? Almost certainly, Hojun replied. The deep ocean is one of the least explored places on Earth. Every time we send cameras down there, we find something new. As he finished the presentation, showing one final clip of a Gulper eel disappearing into the darkness, the classroom was completely silent. It wasn't the awkward silence of his first day. This was a silence full of wonder and new respect. Professor Du Young was the first to speak. Hojun, this is extraordinary. I must admit, I had no idea Earth had developed such remarkable creatures through natural evolution. This will certainly change how we think about Earth's biology. The other students began asking questions all at once. How deep did the eels live? What did they eat? How did they find each other in the darkness? Hojun answered each question, feeling more confident with every response. Next to him, Yijin's glow pulsed with pride for her friend's success. As the class ended, students crowded around Hojun, asking to see more videos of Earth's ocean creatures. Even the ones who had seemed dismissive of humans before were now curious and excited. If this is what lies in your oceans, one student said, their crystal body sparkling. What other amazing things does your planet have? Hojun smiled, thinking of all the other incredible creatures he could show them. The giant squid, the anglerfish, the frilled shark. The Gulper eel was just the beginning. There's so much more to discover, he said. Earth may be young compared to your worlds, but it has plenty of surprises left to show the galaxy. As the students filed out of the classroom, Professor Du Young called Hojun aside. You've given us much to think about, she said. Perhaps it's time we updated our curriculum to include more Earth species. Would you be willing to help with that? Hojun nodded, feeling a warmth of pride in his chest. I'd be honored, Professor. There's so much more I can show you about Earth's oceans. Today, he had done more than just give a good presentation. He had helped change how the galaxy saw his home planet, one deep-sea creature at a time. 1 month had passed since Hojun's presentation about the Gulper eel, and the Galactic Federation Academy had changed in surprising ways. The walls still shifted their colors as always, but now they sometimes showed moving images of Earth's deep-sea creatures, floating like dreams across their surface. Hojun sat in Professor Du Young's office, looking at a new course outline on the floating screen between them. Professor Ta Won, the head of the Xenobiology department, stood nearby, his silver skin reflecting the screen's soft light. Earth's deep-sea studies will be a full course starting next semester, Professor Du Young said, her starlight hair sparkling with excitement. We want you to help us design it. Hojun, your presentation showed us that we have much to learn about Earth's oceans. Hojun looked at the course outline with pride. His simple presentation about the Gulper eel had grown into something much bigger. Students from all over the galaxy would now learn about Earth's amazing sea creatures. We'll need more footage of your ocean life, Professor Ta Won added. The giant squid, the anglerfish, the frilled shark. Students should see them all. The Academy has already approved funding for deep-sea research vessels to visit Earth. That's wonderful news, Hajun said, thinking about how much had changed in just 1 month. I can help gather more information. My family knows many marine biologists back on Earth who would be happy to share their research. As they discussed the new course, Hajun's tablet buzzed with messages. Since his presentation, he had received notes from various research institutes across the galaxy. Everyone wanted to learn more about Earth's ocean creatures. Later that day, Hajun met Yi Jin in the library. The place had become their favorite meeting spot, and today the walls showed soft waves of blue light, making it feel like they were underwater. "Look at this," Yi Jin said, her own blue glow mixing with the wall's light. She showed him a message on her tablet. The Luminian Science Academy wants to study how Earth's deep-sea creatures create and use light. They're especially interested in creatures that use bioluminescence for hunting, like your Gulper eel. Hajun smiled. "Would you like to help with that research? You understand both bioluminescence and Earth creatures better than most people now." Yi Jin's glow brightened. "They already asked me to join the research team. They said my work on your presentation showed I have a good understanding of different light-producing methods." Their conversation was interrupted by a group of first-year students who approached their table shyly. "Excuse us," one of them said, their crystal body shimmering nervously. "We heard you're the one who knows about Earth's ocean creatures. Could you tell us more about them? We're doing a project on unique hunting methods in the galaxy." Hajun looked at Yi Jin, who nodded encouragingly. "Of course," he said, moving to make room for them. "What would you like to know?" As Hajun began explaining about different deep-sea hunters, more students gathered around. Some took notes, others recorded his words, and all of them watched with fascination as he showed them videos of various ocean creatures. "The anglerfish is even stranger than the Gulper eel," he told them, playing the video that showed the fish's hunting technique. "The females have a glowing lure on their head, and their teeth are so long they can't close their mouths completely." The students gasped and asked questions, just as his classmates had done during his presentation. But now, instead of doubt or dismissal, their questions showed real interest and respect for Earth's creatures. That evening, as Hajun walked through the Academy's halls, he noticed something different. Other students no longer stared at him as the strange human. Instead, they nodded respectfully or waved. Some even stopped to ask questions about Earth's oceans. Near the main hall, he saw a new display being set up. It showed a three-dimensional map of Earth's oceans, marking the locations of different deep-sea creatures. The Gulper eel had its own special marker, glowing softly in the dark waters of the display. Professor Du Young stood nearby, watching the display take shape. "Your presentation did more than just teach us about one creature, Hajun," she said as he approached. "It reminded us that we still have much to learn, even from younger worlds like Earth. Sometimes the most amazing discoveries come from unexpected places." Hajun nodded, thinking about how much had changed. "I just wanted to show everyone that Earth's creatures were worth studying," he said. "I never expected all of this." "That's often how the best scientific discoveries happen," Professor Do Young replied. "We think we're just sharing one small piece of knowledge, but it opens the door to something much bigger." As they talked, Yi Jin joined them, her glow creating beautiful patterns in the dim light near the ocean display. "The Luminian Science Academy just confirmed the research project," she said excitedly. "They want to start as soon as possible. They think studying Earth's bioluminescent creatures might help us understand new ways to use light." Professor Do Young smiled. "You see, your Gulper eel is already helping us make new discoveries. And to think, a month ago, most of us didn't even know it existed." The three of them stood looking at the ocean display, watching the holographic creatures swim through the dark water. Each one represented a mystery, a new discovery waiting to be understood. "Next week, we're adding a deep-sea research section to the library," Professor Do Young said. We've already received requests from students who want to study Earth's marine biology. Some are even talking about visiting Earth to see these creatures in their natural habitat. Hejun felt a warmth of pride in his chest. He had done more than just give a successful presentation. He had helped change how the galaxy saw his home planet. Earth was no longer seen as just a young, primitive world. Now it was known as a place of wonders, where evolution had created creatures as amazing as any in the galaxy. As he walked back to his room that night, Hejun stopped to look out a window at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, with its deep oceans full of mysterious creatures. Thanks to one strange eel with an enormous mouth, those creatures would now be studied and appreciated by species from all over the galaxy. His tablet buzzed with another message. Another research institute wanting to learn more about Earth's ocean life. Hejun smiled as he read it. The Gulper Eel had opened a door, and now the whole galaxy was eager to discover what other wonders Earth's oceans might hold. In his room, he looked at a hologram of the Gulper Eel swimming through the air. Its mouth opened wide, its tail glowed in the darkness, and its tiny eyes seemed to shine with the light of discovery. Who would have thought that this strange creature would help bridge the gap between Earth and the galaxy? The Academy's walls shifted to their night colors, deep blues and purples that reminded Hejun of the ocean depths. Tomorrow would bring more questions, more discoveries, and more chances to share Earth's wonders with the galaxy. And he was ready for all of it, one amazing creature at a time.